Hi, my name is Jamya Wilson, and the topic that I'll be speaking about today is why the death penalty should be abolished. I believe the death penalty should be abolished because it's inhumane. All the facts are not always right, and you're taking the lives of innocent people in a sense. For those who do not know what the death penalty is when you commit a crime and you're sentenced to death. You die by electrocution or lethal injection. They tape you down in chairs, cover your head with like a metal helmet, and they shock up to 5,000 volts into your skull. Lethal injection, they put like a poison almost that'll stop your breathing to kill you. It's very inhumane. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. A lot of times, people who are sentenced to the death penalty are not actually guilty. They're innocent people who literally lost their lives due to the fact of the death penalty, and everybody feeling like it's justice. Take George Steiny Jr., for example, a 14-year-old black kid from South Carolina. 2 white girls were found dead. Recently, before they interacted with George and his sister, they were found dead. So they went back and they picked up George and also his brother. His brother was set free, but George wasn't. They said that he confessed to raping them and beating them and came back and raped them again. But later on, it was found out that he was told to confess. You know, some people confess, you get a charge, just take a plea deal. Even though he's innocent, he's a child at the time, he just wants to go home. That backfired for him because he was then put to death. The youngest person in history in the state of South Carolina was put to death because of a false allegation, a lack of evidence, a biased jury, perjury. 70 years later, an attorney decides to go back and look at his case, and a judge exonerates him. They had evidence that showed that he couldn't have possibly did it. They literally had witnesses that could have said where he was at the time when he was doing everything else. They did not look at that. At the time, they had an all-white jury. At the time, it was very biased. Black people didn't have the lead with it they have now, even though we don't really have it. Another example was Carlos de Luna, another a Latino male who was sentenced to death by the state of Texas. He got sentenced to death because a 24-year-old gas station clerk was murdered, but he actually did not commit the murder. He know the person that committed the murder, but they literally look identical. The story is crazy. They both are named Carlos. One is Hernandez and one is De Luna. He kept his innocence throughout his whole experience. They then put him to death. I want to say electrocution. Years later, they found out that he was actually telling the truth and he was an innocent man. After you kill somebody by electrocuting them or filling their body with poison, you can't get their life back. They're done. The justice system is so crooked. You know, you have lawyers who just want to check, jurors that just are biased. Believe it or not, we're still living in those times today. So think about that when you feel like the death penalty is justice. An eye for an eye would never work. Just because somebody takes your family member's life don't mean you should take the life of that person. What justice are you truly getting? That person gets to die, go on about his business. He don't have no time to reflect and actually feel a burden and live with the consequences of taking the life of that innocent person and having to stay behind bars for the rest of his life. I would prefer a person to get a life sentence before I prefer them to get death. Because death is quick. I feel like it's an easy way out. If someone is to be set behind bars 23 hours a day, just don't have nothing to do but sit and reflect on what they've done, I feel like that's truly justice. It should be abolished since that innocent people have lost their lives. It's not really effective because the judicial system claims that jail is to reform the person. When you come out, you're reformed. Not to say to let them get out, just simply take the time. And you could always have a better scenario or resolution to what you're doing. I feel like the death penalty is extreme, very extreme. Also, take into consideration, what if it was your family member? They're innocent. You feel that they're innocent, but they're still put to death. You can't do nothing about it. 15 years later, you feel like, oh, they're innocent. Proof is they're innocent. They lost their lives. And even though George probably wouldn't be alive today or whatever, he still would have had the time to experience life. A 14-year life was taken over false allegations and biased jury. The jury should have went to jail. That's how I feel. So when you sit there and you feel like, oh, he should get the death penalty, think about it. If it was you or your family member, you were innocent and you had your life taken, how would you feel? You can't get that back. At least when someone is jail, you can visit them. It's inhumane. Who could sit in a room? The fact that people sit in rooms and watch these people just shake and go to their death, it's complete humane. It's not all the way accurate because innocent people die. And think about if it was you. That's why I believe that the death penalty should be abolished. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Take the time to sit back and reflect on what if it was you and how do you feel about the death penalty. My name is Jamya Wilson, and thank you.